Welcome to the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm Michelle Wright, your host and fellow traveler on this journey of self-discovery. This podcast is designed for women navigating life transitions and yearning to embrace their true selves. I'll be sharing my personal journey from navigating the complexities of divorce and blending families to reshaping my career to something that resonates with my soul. With 3 decades as a teacher and mentor, I'm here to share insights, heartfelt stories, and practical strategies. Together, we'll explore how to cultivate self-love and create the vibrant, fulfilling life you deserve. Join me each week as we dive deep into the art of living authentically. Welcome to the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wright, and I'm excited to have you here today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about a book that was very formative as I was on my journey. And for many different reasons, I found it very informational. And the book is Sacred Contracts by Caroline Myss. So I'm not sure if you know, Caroline Myss is a mystic. She's an energy and intuitive healer. So in her life and career, she actually was healing people. She healed their energy. She was able to identify their illnesses, the beginning of illnesses, and what they needed to do to change them. And then she moved into helping people understand their own energy. So she became a sacred teacher, a mystical teacher, and helped people really connect with their own energy, their own sense of holy, of grace, connecting to the divine. And I was reconnected with her as I connected with a mentor that I had, Michelle Wright, the Squamish medium. She has the collective, which is a group of light workers. And Danielle has set up a space to teach and to help these light workers connect with each other to grow and learn. I've really enjoyed working in Danielle's collective. And one of the things was Danielle is really impacted as well by Caroline Myss. And so I started going back and listening to her and listening to her books. And there was a synchronicity that happened. 3 months after I joined in Danielle's collective, I was helping my mom with my siblings move out of her condo into supported living. And my mom had gone into Reiki and actually had this book. The book I held up was Sacred Contracts. It was my mom's book. And in the 1990s, she has Anatomy of the Spirit. And that was in a cassette tape form. So way back then, she was connecting with the teachings of Caroline Myss. And I found this alpha and omega coming together as I was reconnected with Michelle Wright and connecting with what my mom was learning. Caroline Myss still continues to teach and have workshops. You can connect with her on YouTube and look her up. She has lots of free content that can help guide you. For me, this book of Sacred Contracts really helped me in 2 ways. And one of the first ways was it helped me to shift my thinking around what was happening to me. And that was through understanding these sacred contracts. Another aspect of this book that she touches is archetypes and the importance of archetypes and what that can mean in our own lives. So for me, when I go into sacred teachings like this, I want to start with an understanding that I have. And I'm going to use a Chinese proverb, and it's about 5 blind monks that are touching an elephant. And each of these blind monks is touching one part of the elephant and saying that this is the truth of this elephant. For example, the one monk is touching the foot and the leg of the elephant and describing what they're touching and saying, this is what it is. Another monk is at the trunk and explaining the truth of the trunk as he's talking about how flexible it is and it moves and it goes up and down, which is a very different description than the foot and leg of this elephant that is immovable. It is foundational and it stays. There's another monk on the back and touching the ear of the elephant and describing that aspect. And another monk at the tail saying, no, this is what it's like. The truth is that they're all touching the elephant, and they all have a piece of the truth of this elephant. They really do. It is an aspect of what the elephant is. It's not everything that the elephant is, but it truly is an aspect of the elephant. So they are speaking truth. And so for myself, when I talk about Caroline Myss or I talk about other books, I see each of these mystical leaders, each of these ways of connecting, one aspect, like the blind monk touching a piece of the elephant. I don't know, and I don't believe that we can ever find that capital T truth. I just know that different teachers and different people, even myself, as I explain my experience, my touching of the elephant, what it feels like, sounds like, looks like to me is just one truth from my perspective. It's important for me to say this for you so that you can really begin to explore the divine, the spiritual world on your own and find your own truths, your own experiences, and how you connect with it. So that is an important foundational understanding for me to share with you. So with Caroline Myss, one thing that was so formative for me was the idea of the contracts. Before this in my life, I would say I had a sense of victimhood. I had so many things coming at me. It was just happening to me. I was just floating in the wind and, this was coming in, that was coming in, this was coming in. Some was good, some was bad. I never really knew. Sometimes I actually thought, the more I worried about things, so if I really, really worried about all the million things that could go wrong, I would be prepared for what would be wrong. I would be prepared and I would be okay if it went wrong and if it went bad and just blew up in my face. And I would be wonderfully surprised if it went well. As you can imagine, if you've experienced this in your own life, it's not a great way to live because you're always living in anxiety. You're always living with this feeling of a lack of control. Your locus of control is never within yourself. It's always outside because things are happening to you. And I needed to shift that. I needed to shift coming inward. And Caroline Myss's work on contracts helped me. So this is what she talks about. She talks about before we incarnate as human beings, we're spirits and we're these souls and we're connecting. So that's where we have the idea of soul tribes, where people, okay, what do we want to experience when we come to be human? What are the experiences? Do we want to have love? Do we want to experience betrayal? Do we want to experience deep loss, regret, joy, happiness? What kinds of experiences do we want? And then we work with each other saying, okay, I'll be part of your contract. If you want to experience love, I'm going to come in and I'm going to be the love of your life. Or you want to experience betrayal, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be your love, and then I will betray you. All of this is the contracts are different experiences that we can have and experience as a soul on earth that can help us to be curious about how can we grow past this? How can we expand past it? How can we heal from that? How can we release those anchors from our souls and let ourselves say, that was a teaching for me. And now I can move now in this direction. I don't need to keep on hanging on to it. I can move in another direction. And these contracts are not only for us individually, they're also for the human race, the whole collective of the earth. And as souls, we're looking for ways to help move us continuously forward into a deeper understanding of who we are as humans, who we are as souls, and who we are together as a group of people. And you can kind of see shifts that have happened throughout. You can see, I'm going to say in my lifetime, I've seen shifts in contracts for females. It used to be that females did not have the ability to work, or if they weren't working, they were in jobs that were not leading. And in my lifetime, I'm just even going to say within the education system, all of a sudden, whether you were male or female did not matter, whether you were a principal that had a leadership position in education, principal, or at the division level or at the superintendency level. It didn't matter. It was actually who was best suited. And so those kind of contracts came through time. And so there were women who came before that had a contract to change that. The same would be, you can see a shift with the Indigenous and our understanding of what has happened, the truth and reconciliation of the Indigenous cultures in North America, or actually in all of the areas where we have seen colonization. And that we're seeing a shift, a deeper understanding, and what it means for us as a human race. And what do we want to learn from it? What do we need to release, heal, and move past and not do again? I think of the Second World War and what happened there. And how can we change so that we're not continuing to respond in that way? And that's what the sacred contracts are about. And in these contracts, before you came down, you had this meeting and you actually sat with your different soul tribe and you said, okay, I want these experiences. I want to learn this in my life. I want to help the collective change this so that we can change the understanding of women and how they work. And I know that was part of mine, being a leader in education. That was part of my work, was changing that and being a powerful female leader that was collaborative, caring, and owned my femininity and worked within those strengths. And so I did accept that contract and move that forward. So when you think of these contracts, there were other contracts that I did have. I had contracts where I had to learn about myself. I had contracts where things didn't go well. And that's an important piece for me because now I look at the world very differently. So when I have challenges for myself and I have challenges with people, challenges with situations, challenges in my life, instead of thinking that it happened to me, I now am curious and I start to say, I wonder why I chose this contract. What is this experience in this contract offering me for healing, offering me to be curious about, offering me to understand at a deeper level, a different perspective, a different understanding? And how can I share that with the larger collective? For me, I've seen a theme around relationships, a theme around marriages and divorces, and finding these relationships where I can be fully myself and really build on my own self-esteem and my own understanding, filling my own cup of love before I look out saying, what is it you need me to do for you? How can I serve you? How can I be the best that you need for me so that you can be happy? And before, I would say I went into relationships people pleasing. I went into relationships knowing that they weren't going to work. So there was an aspect of sabotage in there. I knew that they wouldn't work. And so it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I had to heal these. So this was a contract for myself to heal this deep inner wound that I had and to continue to work at this and find my own personal boundaries, my own sense of self-love, my own sense of self. And that was my contract. and still is my contract. And it's interesting. It's like an onion. It seems like the more that I peel away, I need to continue to dig deeper and deeper. And I'm offered deeper levels of this contract to heal and release and move forward with. That is one that I'm seeing coming alive in my life. So I wonder for yourself, are you seeing some patterns? Are you seeing some themes that are happening? And I think that's where I see, and it's helped me. This locus of control means that, I chose this as a soul even before I came as a human. And I chose this as an actual experience that could help me move forward. And so I need to really dig deep and explore that. So for yourself, where are you seeing those patterns? Where can you see yourself releasing, healing, moving forward, expanding? And how do you do that? How do you do that reflection? Sometimes I've done that through therapy. Sometimes I've done that through coaching, life coaching with someone else. I've done that by working with my cards, connecting with my Akashic records, my higher consciousness, and just diving deep into my own intuition, my own soul, and listening to what can bring me joy, happiness, alignment. And where I find that alignment, it's because I don't find this crunch. I don't find this tension, this uncomfortable tension and pressure. I actually find a flow. So I know when I'm in flow that I am working within the highest potential of my contract. And wherever I find the crunch, I need to be curious and I need to wonder, how can I grow from this? How can I expand? And these questions are the same that you can ask yourself. The Sacred Contract is on Audible, so you can listen to an abridged version of it. It's more of a class she had, so it's a 4 or 5 hour class where she goes through it. Or you can buy the book yourself and dive deeper into this understanding. Start touching this part of the elephant. See if for you, it unlocks some understanding. It unlocks some movement for you like it did for me. Another aspect of this book, The Sacred Contract, was archetypes. And Caroline Myss talks about we have 12 archetypes. So as the whole human race, we have 4 that we all have. So we have the child archetype. So we could be the wounded child. We could be the nature child, the artistic child. So there's a childlike aspect of ourselves. And is it healthy or unhealthy? And are you healing it? When I've noticed for myself that child archetyped, I was a wounded child from sexual abuse and different aspects. And that's where I've been healing. And now I'm moving into the healed child. I'm moving into that playful aspect of myself. She also talks about the other one that we all have together is the saboteur, meaning that there are ways that our soul and the highest versions of our contract know how to move forward, but we sabotage ourselves in different ways by not listening to our intuition, by not choosing the best choice. I'm going to use a simple example for this. I know that eating fast food, potato chips, anything with high carbohydrates, high sugars is not good for me. My body tells me that. My body says, actually, I need whole foods. And when I eat whole foods, I feel healthier. My whole body feels healthier. My emotions feel healthier. My skin feels healthier. So I know this, but the saboteur is just, oh, I just want this. I just want to eat that. So my mind tricks itself and says, well, you deserve it. I used to actually say that. When I was a smoker, I used to say as a single parent, I didn't drink, but I smoked. And I'm like, you deserve to smoke cigarettes. Yep, I did say those words. And now I have quit smoking for over 14 years. Yay me, because that is a tough, tough choice to do. So if you're on that journey or if you're with me and you did quit, you know what I'm talking about. Addictions of any sort are really difficult. And when I look back now, I can recognize that devious saboteur thinking of, oh, you deserve this, you deserve to smoke, right? So even as I'm changing my eating habits to be healthier and looking at food as medicine for me, I'm really thinking about what I'm putting into my body. And that saboteur can be actually quite tricky. So that's another archetype, is that saboteur. Another archetype is, she calls it the prostitute. So and at first I'm like, and she's saying, no, it's not prostitute like the old prostitute. It could be that. But prostitute is, what are we willing to give up for what we want? What are we willing to pay? So if you want fame, what will you give up? Will you betray all the people you want? If you want happiness, what will you give up for what you desire, what you want? What will you pay? That prostitute kind of energy. If you want fame, will you give up your own self-worth? If you want money, will you give up listening to your own soul? And for me, I recognized, like, when I talked about my career changes, that was part of that prostitute energy, that prostitute archetype, meaning that there was a certain level. I had set these goals for my educational career. I wanted this, this, and this. I was at one point no longer becoming happy. I was no longer feeling connected with that group and that at that time. And I think there's time, like for most of my 27-year career, it was my jam. It's exactly where I needed to be. I was singing with my soul, and people would talk, and I would actually go to work and the day would blink by because I was in that creative soul energy. And then at one point it wasn't that anymore. But I still had that goal. I wasn't shifting. And so it's that prostitute energy that said, okay, there's a goal. What are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up your health? Are you willing to give up your happiness? Are you willing to give up your joy for that goal? And I made the shift when I recognized I was no longer aligned in my soul. I was having all that crunchy energy. And I said, no, I'm not willing to pay that. So that's where we shift back and we say, no, I'm not willing to pay that. I'm going to align. I'm going to release this. I'm going to heal this. So these contracts allow us with our archetypes to start learning. Another archetype I know that I have is the wounded healer. The fourth archetype that we all have is the victim. So it's staying in victim mode rather than taking control of our own lives, of our own emotions, of our own bodies, of our own spirits, of our own energy. And we all have those four. So then we start to explore the other 8. Some might be mystics. Some might be warriors. Some might be connectors. Some might be, well, I would be a wounded healer, meaning that I've had wounds in my life. And now I've taken those wounds and now I'm helping people to become healers. And so when I look at that archetype in my life and how I've shifted and moved through it, it's been helpful. Another archetype that I have is motherer and nurturer. I've always had that. I find joy in nurturing others and bringing that into fruition. And not only as a mother myself, but also I have great joy in being of service to others when they come into my home, when they're in other places, nurturing them. Just as an archetype, I can feel that joy and presence and sense of service that I have. Now, I have had contracts that helped me find and continue to help me find where my boundaries are. So where does that mother nurturing turn into actually people pleasing? And so you have to really watch where those edges are. And that's now, as you kind of explore and go through the different archetypes, and you start to see patterns in your life from contracts and archetypes that are playing out in your life. And for me, This has been so helpful because it's given me some ways to think about things, a paradigm shifts for my own self that help me to get out of victim mode and go into, well, if you don't want to be this victim, what are the choices you need to make instead? So boundaries is a big one for me. I need to have clear boundaries, not angry boundaries, not boundaries that I allow to be violated and then I get upset and hurt and feel betrayed. No, instead, I need to have clear boundaries beforehand. And I need to, without feeling bad, that's my people pleasing, just state what my boundaries are. And do you know what? When I do this, everybody's really good with it. That's fair enough, Michelle. These are your boundaries. There's no difficulty with it. It's just me allowing myself to move through my contracts and my archetypes and understanding them more deeply to understand how I can become more in alignment. And another piece was starting this podcast, Lead with Your Soul, because how you recognize these contracts, how you recognize these archetypes, and when you're in alignment or out of alignment, is starting to listen to your soul, starting to really be connected to your own energy. How do you feel about something? And if you don't feel right, why not? Is it a contract that you need to alter? Are you in a saboteur state? Are you in a victim state? What's happening? Because we're invited always in all of our contracts to move through to our highest potential, our highest good. And the universe is not conspiring against us. Instead, the universe, creator, is here, the divine is here to help guide us. And so there might be experiences that come in, and we have different experiences and people and thoughts that come in that help guide us to our highest potential. So for me, I recognize when I am out of alignment, my emotional landscape is, I say, crunchy. I could say erratic, going up and down. And so I've been starting to track those throughout the seasons. So living in Canada, we have 4 distinct seasons. Is there a difference for me in spring, summer, fall, winter? Do I dig deeper in some times than other times? I look at the seasons of my life, right? I look at how I was as a maiden, as a mother, as a child, and now moving into wise woman. What does this mean? To embrace my wise woman and to embrace the experiences that I've had over all these years and help others heal, help others understand the whispers of their own soul, understand a pathway to healing, a pathway for them to become their best self. And I know that I'm doing that through my podcast. I know I'm doing that through my offerings, clarity sessions or coaching sessions. And I can do that. I can journey with people and I can ask them these questions and we can pull cards together and we can figure out how is the best way for you to move forward. And like me, you're going to find it cyclic. Like me, you're going to find it like an onion. We have deep moments and deep, intense moments of change and growth. And then there's a bit relaxing and we just lean into the sense of alignment. We lean into what's happening. And then we'll have other disalignment or crunchiness happening because now we're going to move into another cycle of growth. And that same thing happens. We need to ask ourselves these questions. We need to work with someone. We need to pull cards. We need to journal. We need to meditate. And then you find yourself getting expanded. You find yourself exploring other thoughts, other teachers, other modalities. That's what I found. that help me continue to journey towards my highest good. So I invite you to Google Sacred Contracts by Caroline Myss. I invite you to look at what is out there on YouTube, because there's also lots of free content on Spotify. She's had lots of different interviews. She herself has so many free YouTube videos just on the archetypes themselves. And explore what this means for you. Explore your own pattern of healing and becoming the best that you can. Explore listening to your own soul and seeing what starts to resonate as you create your best authentic life. Until next time, my dear lovely souls, keep leading with your soul. That wraps up another episode of the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm so grateful you chose to spend this time with me. As you navigate your own life transitions, remember to be gentle with yourself and embrace the journey. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share it with others who might benefit. Join me next week for more insights and inspiration. Until next time, keep leading with your soul.